in politics. This is America. We're going to get started, and I want to introduce our CEO and president of the Hip Hop Caucus, Reverend Lennox Yearwood Jr., to get us started off. Thank y'all for coming. Make sure you tweet and invite everybody else out to come on out.
Y'all can do better than that now. Come on, y'all can make a little bit of noise now. I really mean it. Y'all can do better than that. Y'all can make some noise now. That's a little better. We're going to get it turned up a little more. Let me first and foremost, I see we have President Hoyer here, and so I want to turn it right now to Congressman Carson to bring up for some remarks.
Thank you all for coming out to our 9th annual Hip Hop and Politics. We've got some legends up here. We've got Reverend Yearwood in the house. We love our female MCs, but they wouldn't be here were it not for the works of legends, actresses, poets, icons, Moni Love. Everybody's woke now. Huh? But when it was unpopular, when you would get ridiculed and mocked for being woke, we had the guards standing up. Brand Nubian, Lord Jamar. You've seen him in movies, you've seen him on HBO. He's on HBO right now. He's handsome, he's debonair, but he has something to say, and he always speaks life to the dead. Give it up again for Lord Jamar. I'm talking about in the spirit of Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Fannie Lou Hamer. She's her own force of nature. She's a powerhouse. She's a general. You want to shake your hands right now because I think in the next 30 years you're going to see Tamika Mallory on the dollar bill. Give it up for the Queen. Yes. I don't think this is the place to spark madism, but not only is he a lyrical genius.
Really?
I know. From Channel Live, but he's also an educator and an activist. Give it up for Hakeem Green. This brother is a genuine brother. He has a phenomenal story. He's a great MC. He's lighting up the internet right now, not only by speaking truth to power, but holding artists accountable and waking us up to the realities of not only the record industry, but leveraging our voting block in a meaningful way. And that's what hip hop and politics is all about. Right. He's my brother, he's your general. Give it up for my song. Everybody's talking about a blue wave. And we know during the election, we have politicians coming to our mosques, churches, synagogues, schools, and they make promises, and when we vote them into office, they vote against your and my interests. So the question becomes, how do we leverage our voting block in a meaningful way to hold elected officials accountable once we vote them into office? We have to do that. We must do that. And when we take over the House, we got to decide who's going to be in leadership. And he's a white brother. Shocker. I couldn't even say he's light skinned. He's a white brother.
That's not right.
But he's connected to the community. Yes. And he's been in the House of Representatives for decades doing right, developing younger leadership, and he's a part of the movement of grooming the next generation of leaders. Give it up for Whip Steny Hoyer.
Thank you, Andre Carson. Boy, I feel out of my depth with this crowd. I'll tell you that. Now, when he said I was a white brother, the important word there was not white, but brother. Black and white together. Content of character. Another white brother said, "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this hour shrink from the service of their country." I think these are the times that are trying too many souls. And you know, we have all sorts of meetings and groups and consultants, and what they're all talking about is how do we communicate to the American people. I will tell you this, I don't think we have 6 better communicators. Andre's not bad, but I don't think we have 6 better communicators than the 6 people we see on this dais, who know how to capture the pain and the grief and the aspirations and the hope in words that connect. Obama gave a speech just a few days ago. And in that, he reminded us that when he left the presidency of the United States, he said he was going to take on the most important title that any of us have. You recall what that was. It's what all of us are, citizen. And when times try our souls and the soul and character of our country, it is time for us to respond. And what did he say the response should be? A 4-letter word. Vote. Because if we all vote, we will change policies. We will change the leadership in the Congress of the United States. We will change the hateful rhetoric that we hear coming from some people. This conference is the most important legislative conference that I attend every year. Large numbers of people, experts, citizens gathered from throughout this country who serve their community, serve their states, serve their country, and serve mankind. Andre, thank you for giving me this opportunity to just say hello. And to all of you at this dais, thank you. Thank you for communicating to people every day, to energize and to give them a sense of hope if they participate. Give them a sense that they can take charge if we stick together. So I'm so pleased to be here with all of you. Now, he said I was the whip. Now, Son and Toe is not here. Watch me whip. Watch me nay-nay. Now, I'm not going to nay-nay, folks. Got a lot of cameras around. I don't want to screw it up. I have 3 daughters. I have 3 grandchildren, and I have 4 great-grandchildren. And they're counting on you and me to make their country better. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Give it up one more time for Congressman Hoyer. I want to start off this conversation. This panel is an amazing panel for a lot of different reasons. One, folks like my son and Tamika, we've kind of grown up together in the movement. And it's good when you can see your friends, family growing up together. And I say that because you also are a tremendous blessing every year for this conversation. Because one of the things as we have this conversation today is that kind of what Congressman Hoyer kind of left with. Now, I know when he said he was the whip, people were like, hold on, what you talking about in that context. But there's a political conversation, what that means. And a lot of times when we've been doing this for years, we come to this conversation and we forget that there is a political process behind this conversation. Oh, no doubt. Definitely want to highlight, definitely Ras Baraka, Mayor of Newark in the back. Raise your hand, I'm not sure. We also grew up together as well. We have there's some HU stories in that process for us, for the, y'all need to, I said the great HU. Let me just make sure, hold on now, y'all. No, there is no rich HU at all in that conversation. There is no witch. Even though I give total respect to our brothers at Hampton Institute. But anyways, let me just keep this thing. I know that was not, I know you can't start off on that. Let me get back to my political process. Let me say this, in all realness, it's very important for those of us who are doing this work of hip hop and politics, this panel of This Is America, for us to be able to speak freely. And we're going to have that conversation. But I do want to say this in the 9 years. Let me say this for Congressman Carson. When Congressman Carson came into office, it's very important to note that not only was he a hip-hop, meaning from hip-hop from the culture, but he was a Muslim. And I remember when he came into this process how so many folks were against him. And he's just from the great state of Indiana. Indiana, rise up and make some noise. But in that, when we had this conversation, when we first started this, we realized there were many conversations around hip hop that were only dealing with the lyrics. Now we're going to get into that component. There's always a conversation around that, but that isn't hip hop. That isn't the culture. That isn't who we are. I mean, we have on this panel some of the greatest lyricists on this stage. But so we can delve into that. And there's a part of that as a part of this conversation. I'm so glad DJ Mooney Love is here, and there's so much history on this panel. But what I'm saying to you is this, is that when he came in literally to office, and we think back to that time of, it was 10 years? 10 years ago, where we were at that time, and how we were so excited about what President Obama, many of us knew that President Obama would have a term time frame to be in office. In other words, he could be here only for 8 years. But then post President Obama, where will we be? And that's where our conversation needs to be and where I want to start it, because as we're sitting here now, and I gotta make sure I lead this conversation, because we can't start this conversation without lifting up those who are right now in harm's way. And think about those in North Carolina and South Carolina right now, because as we are having this conversation about policy and hip hop and politics, there are folks who look like me and you who wanted to leave but could not afford to leave and are hunkering down right now like they did with my folks in Louisiana with Hurricane Katrina. And so when we have this conversation about policy, it is literally a conversation about life or death. It is not a game conversation. Literally, as we're having this conversation, our grandmamas or those who were left behind in the jails or the prisons thinking they would be drowned to death, they are now literally fighting for their lives. So we have to have this conversation with a sense of urgency. I know it's CBC, I know we here at Caucus got a party going on tomorrow and all that, but we gotta have a serious conversation, because our people are literally, it's about life or death. And we know that either you shape policy or policy shapes you. So I want to go to the panel actually with this conversation, this lead off. We're going to get into all the pieces. There's so much going on from the Supreme Court nomination. There's so much going on in criminal justice, so much going on with how we as artists are dealing from Khalif Browder to Trayvon Martin, movies that we're creating. This is America, how Black Eyed Peas is creating videos, how Childish Gambino is creating videos, how we're doing things, how we're involved with politics, the Women's March and what we're doing from that aspect, the youth, the March for Our Lives. There's so much going on dealing with issues regarding weed and marijuana and how those who went to jail for weed, but how people are making money from weed and all those kind of things. These conversations, we're going to have that. But before we get to that, let's go to Councilman Carson and go down. If you could talk, if you could right now talk to your younger self, if you can go back, if I can hit a wand, definitely want to give a shout out to DC Mayor. Where is she at? Mayor Bowser. Mayor Bowser, I saw a note. Definitely give a shout out for Mayor Bowser who's just in the room. So, starting with Councilman Carson and then going down, each one, this is a question for each one of you. It's a little different question to get started, because we're going to get into that. But if you could share something, if I can hit you right now and you can then appear before your younger self, literally, let's actually go back 20 years. So let's go back right now. We can hit you and you can go back to September 14th, right? 20 years ago. And all you got is to give them a few sentences. What would you tell your younger self to prepare your older self to speak to your people? Congressman Carson.
I think in 20 years ago, 1998, I think the environment was shifting. I think the internet was becoming a formidable force and usage was more widespread. But at that time, I was still in the arts community, failed at that, but still trying to make it happen. But in a very real sense, I would probably tell myself, because I was involved in politics. And I can remember canvassing and doing volunteer work. And at the time, I was trying to get involved with local politics, but I was arrested at 17, and that was brought up. And for me, I was obsessing about my young activism and my evolution and my past as a young man being a problem that would impede my future. So I would tell myself, don't obsess over your future, be in the now and be a voice for your people. That's why when I see Tamika and when I see my song, I get so inspired, because when my song talks about the incarcerated ex-offenders and those brothers in our society still making a contribution and embracing their journey. My journey wasn't the same as my songs, but just that brief brush was held over my head. I would tell myself, don't obsess about it, because there are still issues of crime, there are still issues of poverty. Many of the issues that we're dealing with as it relates to the criminal justice system, those laws were passed and codified under Democratic administrations. And so I think in a very real sense, I would tell myself to work more actively at not obsessing over my past, but being the present and still stay engaged, because it was discouraging at the time.
Powerful. Moni, you speak to yourself 20 years ago, right now.
Okay, I'm trying to remember how many kids I had 20 years ago. Just the one. Honestly, I think, and that I say that, I start by saying how many children did I have 20 years ago, because that's immediately where my mind went when you suggested that for the panel. Because 20 years ago, I had 2 children at the time. My oldest daughter and my second daughter. And the viral explosion didn't happen yet. I mean, I think there was Black Planet. I think that was about it.
AOL.
Yeah. Yeah, that existed. But I think that I would have given myself an extra night school course of viral explosion, social networking, how to deal with that as it affects and is included in your parenting. How to parent my children after the viral explosion. Because those first two girls, my oldest two, piece of cake. I have two younger children now. One's 15, my only son, and another child, my last child, Jamaicans would say, the runt. I come from, my family's Jamaican, and that's the last one, wash belly picnic. That's what we would say. And those two, in comparison to raising the first two, way different, specifically, and a lot to do with the viral explosion. So I would have really given myself an extra course in how to deal with it. I don't think that I'm a failure in that with my second two, but the debriefing sessions are way more tough now than with my older two daughters. There's so much debriefing that I have to do. It's an uphill battle to protect the innocence of my children. Now, more so than back then. I could just switch the TV off. Now I have to walk around the whole house, switch the TV off, switch off the game consoles, the PlayStation, shut the Fortnite off, shut off the iPads, everybody's phones off, and then I sometimes get so fed up that I just go to the whole central of everything, and I'll just turn off the Wi-Fi. Everybody gets shut down, okay, for some nothingness. Get the Uno out. You know what I mean? I have to do this sometimes. So if I could tell myself something 20 years ago, I would be like, okay, we're gonna do extra classes on how to protect your children living under the umbrella of this viral explosion, because it's way too much information for a parent that is trying to preserve the innocence of their children. It's tough. So I commend all you parents out there, you know what I mean? Because it's rough. So that's what I would say. My brother Jamal.
Okay. So 20 years ago, if I went back and I had to speak to myself, I'd probably say, bruh, that Y2K stuff they talking about, that ain't real. The lights ain't gonna go out. You don't need to buy canned goods. They just trying to instill more fear in you, and that's what they do. But that leads me to probably what I would really tell myself is just don't be fearful. Have no fear. Stand in your truth, and that will shield you. That's all you need, really, out here, is truth. And don't be scared to speak the truth, and don't feel that your voice is not powerful. Like there's so many things. Everybody that's up here started just from talking just amongst themselves, and it just grew from there. You understand what I'm saying? But it starts with you. So don't be fearful to use your voice, period.
Wow.
I'm just like you, Moni. The first thing I went to in my mind was my child. This thing about mothers and women, that's the first thing you think of. I was thinking when I was in 1998, I guess my son wasn't yet born. He was just about to be born. And I think I probably would have been telling myself that I was getting ready to step into a whole new world.
Wow.
One where my entire existence would be about fighting for his life. You know, my son's father was murdered when my son was 2. And so he was shot twice and left in a ditch for 2 weeks before his body was discovered. By the time he was found, he was completely decomposed, and we were never able to give him an appropriate funeral. And, you know, I think since then, every day I think about that, and I fight literally in this movement selfishly for my own child. And so I think that if I could go back 20 years, I would be saying, you need to read everything you can read. You need to sit with the elders. You need to prepare yourself for this battle that is coming, that is a everyday battle. You will not be able to put it down, if you will, not just because the world is so crazy, but because you're trying to raise a precious individual in the midst of it all, and then that precious individual happens to be a black man, which is the most endangered human on the face of the earth. And so, you know, for me, I think, you know, 20 years ago, I was trying to figure out, my aunt is here with me today, Aunt Janice, we call her Aunt Peanut, so, but, you know, all I wanted to know was, where was it popping at? That's it. You know, like, what's next? What's going on? And then I got pregnant. And thank God, because my son actually saved my life. If it hadn't been for me getting pregnant, I don't know where I would be today. But it was because God blessed me with a child. And I tell people all the time, young people who are listening to me, don't try it at home, because it is not easy and it doesn't work out the same for everyone. But God knew what I needed. And because I had a child, all of the teachings, my parents had me in the movement from a very young girl, but I really didn't understand it. It was their movement. And it wasn't until I was blessed with this child, and then unfortunately blessed with even my son's father's murder, that I became a leader in my own right, and the movement became my own. So, you know, 20 years ago, I just would have been preparing myself so that, you know, I tell my son all the time now, I'm like, dude, I'm trying to tell you to read this and focus on these different things to help with your personal development, because it's nothing worse than getting out into the world and then having to rush quickly to catch up with the things you need to know in order to be able to do the work. And the work is it's so much work, and the burden is so heavy on you. You have to be prepared with the full armor around you in order to be in this movement, and to be leading is a whole different thing. So, you know, I guess it would be those conversations about putting down the poppiness of what's going on and picking up what's really serious and what's really important.
Wow.
20 years ago today, that would have been 1998. That would have been 3 years after my hit record. In 1998, it was perceived I was on the other side of success. We call that falling off. And when you're signed to a major label and people expect so much from you, and you're not delivering what they think you should be delivering, you feel kind of lost. You feel displaced. You feel disconnected. However, analyzing the first 27 years of my life prior to that, I had a purpose and I had a mission that was deeply embedded in my art, deeply embedded in my culture. When the change in the music and the change in the system happened, we got caught up and we got lost. So if I could say to myself, to my 20-year-ago self, stay focused, stay committed, you have purpose, you have something special to give to the world, just stay focused, don't get shook. Here I am, able to serve under Mayor Ras Baraka and help him do wonderful things in the city of Newark. Enough salute to him for seeing that purpose in me and allowing me to bring hip-hop into Newark and organize those folks. Man, I lost a lot of time in between 1998 till about 2008. I'm back on track, but if I could speak to myself 20 years ago, I'd say stay focused, young man. You all good.
My son?
Ooh, that was 1998 was kind of a tough year for me. It was like my son was being born, I was just getting signed, and I was on trial for my case. And if I had to say something to myself 20 years ago, it would be believe yourself. Go with what you feel. Like I realized all throughout my life, every mistake that I've ever made was me believing somebody more than I believed me.
Come on now.
You know, I remember I went to a court and I was fighting this case, and I believed what this lawyer was telling me, even though I knew what he said and didn't make sense to me. But I thought he studies this, and other people were saying you should let him do. And I'm saying to myself, this don't really make sense to me. This defense you telling me, I know I'm innocent, but you telling me to say something that don't really make sense, and you saying stuff that don't make sense. And I remember I sat there, and the judge looked, and I was ignorant to the law. I didn't really understand. And the judge looked at me and my lawyer, and I was trying to get rid of him, though. I was really trying to get rid of him. And the judge said, you sure you don't want him? You sure you want him as a lawyer? And my gut was saying, say no. say, no, I don't want him. But I looked at him and I was scared. I was so scared that if I said that to him and he couldn't get off the case, that he just wouldn't fight for me. So I didn't go with my heart, not understanding they can't make you keep a lawyer, but I didn't go with what I felt. And every time I didn't go with what I felt, something went wrong for me. You know, and as a result of me not going with what I felt, I made mistakes. And, you know, and I ended up spending 7 years in prison for a crime that I didn't do. And based on that decision that I made and prior decisions that I made that I didn't go with what I felt, every minute after that, I went with what I felt, and I was always successful. It was always a positive outcome. So what I would say is always believe in you and go with your gut feeling. Don't let nobody tell you anything that goes against what you feel in your heart.
Wow. So I want to make sure to give a shout out to Jamal Bryant. Give it to my dear brother right here. Also behind him, Dr. Roger Mitchell is on the board of Hip Hop Caucus, also the chief medical examiner for the District of Columbia, Dr. Roger Mitchell. Behind him. So I want to keep on this path, because y'all, I mean, this is kind of part of wisdom, and when you've been doing this, it's important. When we first did when I got involved, I've been involved with hip hop for many, many years, as you know, and hip hop politics. And when we first wanted to do a hip hop, can I just do some real talk? Is that okay? Let's go. Okay. So when we first wanted to do a hip hop panel here, this was back in 2004, and we went. Thank God for, I don't know if she's still here, Priscilla Clark. Priscilla Clark was amazing. But when we first wanted to do a hip hop panel here at the Congressional Black Caucus, we were told no. Literally no. We would run around, we would ask for a room, and you know, I was at the time working for Russell Simmons, and we had to do some things, and they said no, there's no room in the inn here at the CBC for a hip hop panel. You can come on, you can use you for audience building, but to have this kind of panel, that you can't have that kind of conversation. And so we literally went down to Howard University. That was on September 11th, 2004. And had the first Hip Hop Caucus, which was a combination with Diddy, with Citizen Change and Hip Hop Some Action Network, and Voice Your Choice and other entities came together, and we did that. But since then, we now have grown, so now there's so many panels and discussions, so it shows the growth. That's why I wanted to make sure you understood the history, and why when Councilman Carson came and others, they were actually part of this new, and then you have Rock and others who this new hip-hop generation of politicians who were then effecting policy, but they were also peers, so they kind of knew what we were doing from the streets to the suites. Y'all know what I'm saying? So that's kind of important. So this next question for y'all goes, I wanted to give y'all the first one, but now I want to give y'all a little bit of a magic wand. Because one thing y'all didn't mention, it's funny, y'all went back 20 years, and which is great, and it's interesting, but nobody mentioned they would go back and say there's a guy who's going to do a TV show called The Apprentice, and he's really bad, you know. He's going to do a full-page ad against Central Park 5. He's just a bad guy, right? So, anyways, but warn people about that guy. That doesn't, you know, we don't think. We think about our family, which is actually how we think, and that's actually normal. But other groups, as we think, which is important, I want to make sure you're clear. As we're meeting, other folks are meeting too. So please be clear. And even folks who are progressive, I'm gonna make sure, because sometimes progressive folks meet as well. And we're not quite invited to those conversations. So there's a lot of conversations that are happening at the same time. But I want to ask the panel, so if you now, because this is the Congressional Black Caucus, if I can give something from a sign on down, if I can give you, man, like this little bit of like a wand, and you can then, without anybody knowing it, but you can change policy, and that policy can be real tomorrow. Whatever the policy you want, you only get one though. You don't get to, like, I know you buy like a sport, you buy, hold up, right? You're going to get rid of voting, we're going to get voting rights strong, we're going to get, you know, you can do it, we're going to do criminal justice. But you only get one. You get to go in there and hit the button, and tomorrow morning that policy is in effect. And it will change the lives of everybody, not only in this country. You have that power right now. I'm giving it to you. So right now, Masan, you can change one policy to affect our people, and you can think, you can be like whatever you want, reparations. You can let your mind go, but you get one. What policy would you change for our people in the morning?
That's a tough question, because you went to reparations and all that, you know, because I could definitely use some reparations.
You get one. You get one touch.
I think mass incarceration is such a very important part of our society and the way it affects black males in general, and how it pretty much is, and women, but it's pretty much wiping us out. You know, and I think, and it's based on criterias, you know, and they're not sentencing guidelines and what they consider to be a crime, and how they only affect black people. I think basically what I would change in policy is that all the policy that affect black people affect white people the same. If the law was equal for black and white people.
You got to say that again. You got to say that one more time. That might have went over a little bit. You got to say that one more time.
That's pretty much all I would need. If all the laws affected black and white people the exact same way, then we would win. We would win. We would be good.
It sounds so elementary when you say it.
But it's,
like,
it's the truth. That's you see how easy that is? Like,
yeah.
You walk in the black people community and you walk and you trespassing. You know? But when you walk in a white people neighborhood, when you white, they say, "How you doing, officer?" And they give you a handshake. They show you where to go. Oh, you don't know? You're not okay. You're not from around here. I can take you to the house. They put you in the back, take you to the home. You know, have coffee with you. But as soon as they see us somewhere, we get beat up. You know, so I just need the laws to affect us the same way.
Wow, good one. That's good. Next one. Yeah, we got one. Yeah, you could change one policy. This is your chance.
You know, I'm an educator, and I have a community-based for-profit called 24 Hours of Peace, which was created to support RAZ's initiative, Violence is a Public Health Issue. Now, how that relates to your question is, the other day I read an article that in U.S. schools there are more police officers than guidance counselors. Right. The most important resource of any community is people. So we're not investing in people, we're not investing in ourselves. And that's what's going wrong with this nation. They stopped investing in itself through the schools and educational system. So I would flip that and, you know, demand that we have a vigorous training program for social workers and guidance counselors so our children can get a real fair shake in the school systems.
Tamika, I can't wait to hear your answer.
I don't know. I don't really have a good one. But, you know, I don't know. I guess I want to come from an angle of women, but then I obviously have a child. So I think that I would probably, I guess everyone else here will probably, you already covered young people. I would probably make it where men would have nothing to do or no say-so over what women do with our bodies.
Come on.
So any policy or anything related to women's reproductive health and issues about our bodies would be controlled by us only, and no man would be able to even sit in a room to discuss our issues.
Wait, hold on. Can you say that again for the people in the back?
Right. I mean, because if you think about it, Kamala Harris, Senator Kamala Harris, asked Judge Kavanaugh, is there any policy, one that you can think of, that controls males, whatever, the male body? And he said he couldn't think of one because there is none.
That's right.
There is none, you know. So.
That was a pretty good answer, though.
I'm sorry.
Now, y'all first three is, come on.
I'll add on to that and just say that I feel like it's white men making those policies, so let's not just put all men, but I feel you on what you're saying. Now, as far as, like, what is the policy that erases poverty?
Come on now.
Because for me, poverty is the root of it all, and everything else is a symptom of that cancer. So when we out here trying to give, hair tonic because your hair's falling out, but really you got cancer, you're not going to cure the ill of what's really happening. So I feel like the root of the problem, when we think about health care and, miseducation and just so many things that we suffer, especially in our community, when he was talking about, have the same laws for black people and white people. Like, let's make no mistake about it. White people in this country are not in the position they are in because they're smarter or somehow more industrious than you, okay? They're in the position they're in because they curtailed the laws to be advantageous for them. Okay, redlining and all this type stuff stopped us from being able to have financial stock in our neighborhoods and all that type of stuff. We can't get businesses in our own communities and all this type of stuff. Yeah, gentrification, all these different things. These are all just symptoms of poverty. So if there was a magic wand that I could wave that would, enact a policy, it would be one that eradicates poverty for all people.
Reverend, this wand that we're talking about,
Yes. Let's discuss the wand.
can it be purple? And have sparkles on it?
Yes, it can.
Okay. And if I could do something, could it be to activate or deactivate something?
That's a great. So that's a great point. So your question is, could it activate a policy or deactivate a policy put in place? Yes.
Okay.
But only one. So either you're going to reverse a policy or put in a policy. Yes. And it can be purple with sparkles.
Okay. Then stand your ground really gives me the willies. I'm so scared of it. I think it's too broad. It's a huge license for act like a complete maniac. It really scares me. It's purple and I'm going, boop, and it's gone, because that really scares the living everything out of me. Okay?
Very good. Now, Councilman Carson, now you are a policymaker. Actually, shout out to Indiana reps, Payer and Tuckerford up here in the front row. Raise your hand right there. Because it's important that policies are created on the local and the state and the federal levels. So it's important to know how these policies go. So now this is tough. Now this is what your baby would be. Now if you can make all your friends not even know your policy. Which one you gonna put in place?
I'd have to say free education. And it's not just limited to college education, because I'm still paying back student loans, but I would say vocational education. And I think in that we would have to incent people who even homeschool. I mean, there would obviously have to be a certification process, but I think even homeschooling, incent them and allow them to have resources and funding to support what they're doing, because I think that there's a context where homeschool is acceptable and probably arguably even better.
Yeah.
But the insurmountable debt that our kids are having coming out of these schools is unacceptable, especially if they don't have generational wealth, and for parents to have to mortgage their homes to pay for their kids' college education, I think is unacceptable. So it furthers the chance for them to even retire, and by the time they retire, they only have 5 years left to live. So I'd have to say free education.
Wow.
To live.
So, Masai, keep the wand. Actually,
Keep the wand.
Keep the wand, purple with sparkles.
Yes.
I can't do purple sparkles. Maybe purple with just caramel sparkles.
Red, black, and green.
That's
Red,
just
black,
mine,
and green.
Mike. That's just mine.
That's hers. That's hers.
Yes.
We're gonna give you the red, black, and green wine. Then.
Okay.
We're gonna
There you go.
I can take
give
that.
you
See that
that
Young
one.
Huey P shirt they on sale.
But this is your wine. We're actually gonna shift a little bit to the culture.
Yes, sir.
So, on the same level with the culture in hip hop,
Yes, sir.
you can change anything in hip hop. You can either deactivate or put in place. We about to go there right now. You have that power, muscle. You can literally wipe out a show, put in a mogul, take out a mogul, take out a rapper. You can create a music video. You got the power right now with your red, black, and green wine. What would you do with that power?
What I would do, because at the end of the day, hip hop is just like anything else. It's preference, and and what I would do, what I want to see in hip hop is the opportunity for people to fairly be able to choose. I don't like the fact that one genre or one sound or one message is being so much promoted, while the things that we say that's positive, that's uplifting and motivational, is being put to the side. So my thing is, hip hop to me is a form of expression, and it's also competitive. And I think if you put me on the stage with any one of these rappers that's talking about trapping and Molly Percocets or all of the stuff that's destroying our communities and destroying lean and all that, I believe if you put me side by side on the same stages with any of these artists, that I can win. If I was given the same opportunities and the same push and all of these radio stations and TVs that promote that negativity to our community, I believe that I have enough skill set. If you place brothers like me and Hakeem, Lord Jamal on the same stages with them, we would win.
Heck, I smoke them.
We was, and Moni too. Listen, we would smoke them. So that's all I want. I just want the playing field. I want the playing field to be equal. I want it to be demanded.
Absolutely.
That when you put this negative, you got to pay something back to back so that people can get an opportunity to choose which one makes more sense. Because I know that they lying.
Balance.
And what we saying is authentic. And I know people going to choose authenticity over lies any day. So just give us the opportunity. Like I want to be able to debate with somebody. You saying this and I'm saying this. Give me an opportunity to prove. That's what I want. I want the playing field to be equal.
Man, I want you get the one. Can I just say I just love my son's answers. Both of those answers, on the political side, was like white folk, I'd be like black folk on all policies, and on the hip hop side, the playing field is automatically equal.
Yes.
Good gravy.
So my answer is, if I had a wand and I can change how hip hop is perceived, to change.
No. You have a wand, and whatever you want to do with hip hop from the history, it didn't start in New York. It started in the Caribbean. Whatever you want, you can just change. Like you have the power to
change something within the culture.
Exactly. That's your power.
People's understanding or realization that hip hop is not the music business. It's two totally different things. When we say hip hop, we really mean music. Generally, hip hop is a culture. It's how we do things, and that's how we differentiate what is hip hop and what is not hip hop. Hip hop is an idea. Those of us who resonate, that vibrate with that idea, pick it up immediately. If you come in and you're not hip hop but you rapping, we know you're not hip hop.
So what would you? Your wand.
People's understanding that hip hop is not the music business. As soon as you understand that hip hop is not the music business, your appreciation of what real hip hop is comes into play.
I like that. Get your wand.
I might pass. Let me see. Okay, hold on. I gotta think. I would, if I could, what are we supposed to do with our wand? Shake it, whatever you
Do
call it?
something, change anything you want in the culture, anything.
I would use my wand to get people who claim to be conscious and woke, and all of us who are in this room, to stop supporting things that we claim we don't want to hear. So rather than placing the onus on the industry, I would place the onus on us to control the messaging that's coming into our homes by us putting our money behind what we know is best for our children and for our community.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm waiting for this one.
I'm just gonna shake my.
Hold on. Before you get started, I got to say this. I'm actually gonna. I want to actually lead into your world, Jamal. It's his birthday this weekend. So let's actually
strong,
let's sing a little bit.
Yeah, 20 years ago, I was getting ready for my
sing
birthday.
birthday song and then give the one. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday.
No. You know I want the black one.
Happy birthday
To ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy.
Thank you. This is the Black Caucus, y'all. I'm singing a white ass happy birthday.
Now, yeah, you're
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm waving my wand
Okay.
and I'm removing all outside influence from hip hop. Just meaning, because like my son said, certain things are being pushed. I know your name is Tamika, but I was gonna go to you, but then I said, because all of y'all are kind of hitting on what I'm talking about, the education part, the part about accepting messages that we don't really say that we're about and all of that. A lot of that comes from the outside influences who have control over this thing because they've turned an art form into a corporate product, basically. And so it's all about the dollar. The ends justify the means.
Yeah.
And, when you have these influences of other cultures, because make no mistake about it, we as black people, and and when I say black people, I mean like Puerto Ricans as well, because they were there in the beginning. This is our culture. This is something that we created organically when they didn't want us to have any music at all. They took music out of the schools. They took, a lot of people used to play instruments back in the days.
Yeah.
They took all of that out of the schools and tried to leave us with nothing. And what did we do? We took a turntable and turned that into an instrument.
We started beating on tables and lunch.
Beating on tables, exactly, going into our primal, our primal selves, and created a music from that. And now you got people out here trying to hijack what we've created. And so I don't know if some of y'all follow, some of the things I say on the internet, but who doesn't? For a while I've been going hard at this dude Eminem. And it's not that I have any hatred for this guy. It's the fact that the powers that be try to place him on a pedestal that we as black people would never organically put him at. Okay, so it's about, again, the outside influences coming in, trying to determine what is what, who is who, and all of that, and that's part of the deterioration of hip hop. So I'm gonna wave my red, black, and green wand and remove all outside influence. Get out of here!
You got
Purple.
Purple sparkles. Wand.
Okay, so, what I would do, I'm removing something again. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. No,
Okay.
It's your wand.
Okay. And it's actually an extension pretty much of what everybody has said. So I think I would be removing something after you guys have done your work. And then I'd come in and I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to bippity-boppity-boo this. Yes. And what I would bippity-boppity-boo is you said something about the playing field, making the playing field even for the artists, right? And I think that in making the playing field even for the artists, it then also can filter into making the buying and appreciation playing field more even for the fans and for the consumers. And in saying that, because they get more choice, they get more opportunity to hear, or everyone, the balance. And in saying that, I would bippity boppity boo the streaming aspect, because I don't think it's a fair representation of true fanship. And I say that because I've had people tweet me in the hype and hoopla of this person's album that's coming out, and they're dissing, this girl's dissing this girl, and blah, blah, blah. And then they'll be like, oh, you have to listen to it. Oh, and I'll listen to it for 2 seconds, and guess what? It counted as a stream. Okay? And then I'll click it off and be like, oh, this is hot garbage in a sandwich. But it's too late. I already listened to it. And it counted as a stream. Whereas, once upon a time, you would get up, leave your house with $5.25, okay? Don't quote me. And you would go to Tower Records, and you would pick out what you wanted to get. Once upon a time, it was vinyl. Can anyone spell that anymore? Once upon a time, it was cassette. Then it was CD, or even digitally. Purchase who it is that you appreciate, with no mistaking, no, I'll listen to it for a little bit and I don't really like it and it still counts as a buy or as a stream, a plus. People going platinum, triple platinum, and all this other stuff, because essentially all of that helps to make it appear that somebody is huger than what they really possibly are, and it tilts the perception of the music, which then poisons the culture.
Wow.
So streaming, bippity boppity boo.
Can I just add on real quick to what you're saying, just to educate the audience a little bit?
Definitely.
Because the streaming thing goes both ways. It can benefit certain artists, like if you click on it and watch it for 2 minutes, cool, they get that stream. But now for artists that are just coming up, do you realize, like you said, we went to the record store, one person will buy your single or your record,
Yes,
that's
sir.
a sale. It takes 150 streams to create one album sale. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. So now do the math, like for somebody that's just coming up, for them to try to get one sale, they gotta get 150 people to stream it. Now for them, that might not be so easily for somebody to just click it by accident.
But that's why the trolling era is
Because
so big.
people are having streaming
They
parties.
just put things out that just attract you. I watch so many. It's so many artists that I used to send people like, yo, did you see this stupid stuff they got up here? And I watch it like 5 times trying to figure out,
Right.
like, how is they saying it's good? And then they be like, yo, he got 5 million views. He's killing them. He's
And
the
you
biggest
just
nigga
gave him
hip hop.
5
Nah, I gave you
towards
about 100 of these views
And
trying to figure out
right,
the worst song in
and
the
not
world.
only that, it is an unfair system, because there are artists who have fans that actually have it written down, dictated, and pass it on to the next ones exactly how to stream party. Set your phone on such and such. Turn your volume down. Let it play over and over and over and over all day. There's instructions. Like, there's instructional manuals for fanatical fans to blow this thing. So that's why it's an unfair system, and there's so many great artists like you're speaking of, they can't get that one stream. You know what I'm
You're
saying?
gonna go platinum when you need 1 billion streams to make that happen, and you're just, Lil Rock from down up the block.
Exactly.
You understand?
So evening the playing field. Evening the playing field in that. Bippity boppity boo.
All right, Congressman. You got your one now for hip hop. Now you were a hip hop MC.
Yeah. Well, failed, but thank you. I would have to say, based on a conversation I had yesterday with Moni Love and Ashanti Dawes, formerly of LaFace Records, who signed Outkast and Goody Mob. Thank you. The marketing. So I would say that I would probably remove the taboo and make it more acceptable and create an environment where artists can really deal with mental health issues.
Wow.
Because you have your creatives, and you always have your creatives, but I think
some of what we pass off as creativity is schizophrenia, bipolarism. My mother suffered from schizophrenia, so I don't know how we address that. Folks can speak to it more deeply than I
Right.
can. I know Shanti can with Silence the Shame.
Absolutely.
But I would certainly talk about removing the taboo.
Wow. That's important.
Because Kanye definitely needs help.
Congressman Carson just said,
Need a mic.
jokingly, he said failed MC. To the point I was talking about earlier about the difference between hip hop and the music business, right? MC means mic control, master of ceremony, move the crowd, right? Come midterm elections, I guarantee you, Congressman Carson will be moving the crowd.
Thank you, beloved. Appreciate that.
He
Thank you.
just
I
control
appreciate
the microphone,
I appreciate
and
that.
we know he's a master of ceremony.
I appreciate that.
So there's thousands of young men and women, boys and girls, who are brilliant MCs who may never have a rap career, but they still bring hip hop.
That's right.
So, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
To Hakim's point, the education point, I can remember in high school having friends, even in detention, but having friends who were, some of them were placed in special ed, misplaced in special ed, but if you look at their writing and their lyrics, you see the kind of ingenuity that could rival some That's of the the truth. greatest philosophers, but they didn't That's have a an fact. environment that spoke to their They're forced to- lifestyle.
So we're going to get ready for some audience questions, and I want to piggyback. This is an election, and so on the back screen over here, you have one of the campaigns. What we do is Print My Vote, which is a campaign, so please make sure you register to vote. I know most of you will, but if you're not, make sure you register to vote. But I want to give, before you go to your question, I do have one more kind of wand question, because everybody on the stage is kind of an artivist, which is an activist and an artist put together.
Did you just make that up?
No, I didn't just make it up, but it
That's
definitely.
good. I'm going to use that.
But it definitely is. It is definitely what we have on this stage is art and activists. So, and I kind of want to start in the middle with Tamika on this one, and I want you. This is a similar kind of wand question, and it's going to go deep. So if you want to pass on it after you hear it, then but it'll come back. So this is the question. We are right now dealing with an administration that is hostile toward black people. There are Muslim bans, there are detention centers, immigration, there are attacks on women, disrespect. There are those who are putting the NRA and gun laws before people, pollution over people. There are so many things like that that are going on now after we had President Obama and now have Trump. But I don't want to start with Trump. That isn't what the wand in this question is for. This is a similar wand, either purple and sparkly or black, red, or green wand, whichever one you want to pick up. This one is different because, Tamika, you are an amazing activist. And on this stage, we have artivists, artists and activists on each side of you. But this is the question. How did we get here? So the question would be, if you can then go back to this meeting, and in this meeting before you, very similar to this kind of the pop-up to you 20 years ago, but in this meeting is Dr. King, Coretta Scott King, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Dorothy Height. This is that gathering. You are now transported back to give them some information about our people in the 21st century and can talk to the 20th century activists. Shirley Chisholm is in the room. We have all these different luminaries sitting before you, and you got a couple minutes to talk to them, to inform them, to change something, how they do business. Maybe how they may be too homophobic, or they're not allowing women to speak, or they're too patriarchal, or they need to shift the money, or we're too based upon the churches and not community centers. We don't need to be moved from integration or something. Whatever it is, you can then inform them that there's a Trump disaster on the way for our people coming 50, 60 years from now. And you can either talk to them, and kind of the more lost, but either you can talk to them, or what would you want to glean from them to help you, since you're being transported back into the 21st century? What would you do with your wand?
Well, I mean, I guess, I don't know. First of all, my wand would be red, black, green, and purple, because I think there is a space for us to have all of that, a multifaceted wand. But I don't know. I think I would probably ask for a few things. One, I would be asking the leaders to make sure that before they close their eyes, and because you don't know when that's going to happen, that you ensure that that pipeline of people who are younger than you, or people who are just coming up in the movement, are very present, and that they're not being blocked from, from the rest of the world being able to see your legacy, who's next. Because we can't afford to keep having to, recreate the dream every time. We need to know, and I know there's this saying that, well, each generation has to earn its own, and that may be true, but we also know that there is an attempt, a direct attempt, to keep people, to hold people back, because only a few of us can be on the stage at one time. And that has been very dangerous for us in the movement and in many different spaces. So I would want to talk about that. Like, what is the pipeline, and how is this pipeline being developed, and what resources are being left for people to be able to come and carry on. I think then I would probably go into the generation right after and say, don't take that check. Don't take that check from that corporation. Don't take that check from that entity that seeks to buy out our community and buy our voices. But then in order to keep us from doing that, I would have to turn to the rest of the people in the room and say that there's no way that you could keep a leader from taking the check if you don't provide a way for them to eat. So we as a people have to pool our resources to make sure that if we want our leaders to be bold and to be out and be present and to be unapologetic about our survival, then we have to find a way to feed them the same way we feed the owners of McDonald's and Whole Foods and all these other entities. So that would be my my other piece. Is just that, one, it's like, who's in the pipeline, I guess, is first. Second is, please don't take that check, because it might sound good, it looks good today, but ultimately it is going to take away from the integrity of our fight and our struggle.
Come on now.
And then last, it would be to the people that if we want these things to be true, that we have to invest in those who are out here speaking truth to power on behalf of us.
I'm going to start, Councilman Carson, and work my way back down. If you can, I mean, you have a legacy, and, with your family and politics, but you now are able to speak to the 20th century, the room. These are now Malcolm and Coretta and Dorothy Height and Shirley Chisholm. This is who you get to speak to. What are you going to tell them or ask them?
I think I would tell them that we cannot create these mythologies around who we think is in power. Are there elements behind the scenes who have great influence? Absolutely. And Lord Jamar and I talked, we had a build on this podcast over a year ago. And we got a lot of positive feedback from it. But I think what the elections have taught us, outside of the presidential election where the Electoral College is a different conversation, I would say that localized elections and even federal elections, i.e. Senate and Congress, have impacts on your, the legislative branch is a bit more abstract, but certainly council, school board, zoning boards, city council, state reps, governors, mayors, have an immediate impact on your lives. Don't overlook the fact that you have a voice, and if you don't use your voice through voting, then it's really difficult to be critical of the system if you're not participating in the system.
Let me do a follow-up to that one, because that's a great, I want to do one piece. At that time, they're also dealing with voting rights, right? And they're dealing with the fact of that they want to push that. So you're looking before you know what happens with voting rights. You also know that it's going to be gutted later on as well. So what with that kind of piece, would you be telling Martin and Malcolm and Dorothy and Churchism that?
We're talking about the past.
Yeah, no, you're talking to them. Like, what would you be able to either tell them so they would change what they're doing, or move forward?
Is this We Shall Overcome Malcolm or
You can pick
Chaos
whatever.
Chaos Martin or We Shall Overcome Martin?
Which
Martin am I talking
You
to?
actually know more about them. They probably know about themselves, actually, because you're coming back. But yeah, you're talking to them.
I would encourage them to keep doing what they're doing, because I think were it not for even their ideological differences, we wouldn't be here today. You needed a Dr. King to contrast what Malcolm was doing, what the Black Panthers were doing, what the NOI and MGT were doing. I think you needed that contrast. So I don't think I would want to what Father Allah did in Harlem, you know. But I wouldn't want to do a Back to the Future and disrupt the beauty that we have now, because I think arguably, while they laid the foundation for us, Reverend Yearwood, I think the folks on this panel and the folks in the audience, they would even say themselves are more formidable than even they were. So when people look back 20, 30 years from now, and they pull the footage of the Lord Jamars, the Monis, the Tamikas, the Hakeems, the Yearwoods, everybody, the Mysons, you guys are going to be the Malcolms and the Corettas and the Bettys that people look to. So they laid the foundation for where we are today, and I think I'm excited about the Millennials. I'm excited about Generation Y. I told someone yesterday, I said, you know, you Millennials are doing a great thing. You got to watch out for Generation Y. They're on your heels. She said, no, they're not on our heels. They're eating Tide Pods. I said, but there's an ingenuity there. So I think that the generation to come, my daughter's a Generation Y. She's not eating Tide Pods, but I think the generation to come is even greater than, I think we're Generation X. Generation X is even special. We get overlooked, but we're very special. But I think that this generation is greater than generations of past, even though they laid the foundation.
Wow.
So I wouldn't want to disrupt the past.
Do you want to disrupt?
No, I don't like going in the past too much anymore.
Bonnie? No, I feel that.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. If I had an opportunity to sit in a room and have a conversation with,
Our ancestors.
okay, Coretta,
All of them.
Dr. Betty, Shabazz, Malcolm, Dr. King. Okay, I would say, and many, many more, just that whole set. I'm thinking, when you're speaking, I'm thinking all the scenes as a child that I saw in old television footage of marches, and all the faces that I would see walking with Dr. King, and this is what I'm visualizing.
That's it.
When you're speaking. And if I had an opportunity, I would say to them, Malcolm, one day, and Dr. King, you too, and all of your constituents, one day there's gonna be a bunch of kids spinning on their backs on linoleum and cardboard. And, you know, and some of their friends are going to be plugging stuff up into street lights so that they can have their turntables on. And a couple of guys are going to be, you know, reciting words to a crowd, and the crowd's going to be reacting. And, you know, this is actually all going to derive from a whole bunch of kids that wore jackets with writing on the back of them, deciding one day that they were going to quit warring with each other. So these kids are going to be the ones that you come across. They're going to stop fighting each other, and they're going to wind up spinning on their backs and, you know, plugging up street lights to make music and have jams in the street, and you're not going to understand it. But they're gonna be the kind of storytellers, and they're going to be the influencers and the message tellers, and like the people in the village that can tell your story to the kids younger. So give them a chance. Give them a chance. You're not going to understand it. It's going to sound like absolute crap to you. You know, it's not Sam Cooke or Otis Redding. It's not Aretha or Nina Simone. It's not the Commodores or the Bar-Kays. It's not Kool and the Gang. It's not Earth, Wind and Fire. But these kids that are going to start this movement, and it's going to be called hip-hop. I know it doesn't make sense to you right now, but you know. It's going to be called hip-hop, and they are going to be the storytellers and the message senders, and they're going to be the ones that encapsulate the sign of the times. So give them a chance, all right? And when you meet, if you could ever meet this one that his name is Lord Jamar, okay?
Brother.
Basically, give him a pound when you meet him. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, give these kids a chance because they're going to be the ones and let some inclusion happen. Because if that inclusion doesn't happen, it can really be dangerous for the next set that comes even after them. Okay, and that was it. And then we proceed to have some dinner.
That is fan.
That's it.
Wow. What, Jamal?
I feel like I'd be probably giving out mad warnings, yes?
Yes.
Like Malcolm, when you hear somebody say, "Get your hand out my pocket!" Run! Martin, when you walk out on the balcony of the Lorraine Hotel, don't wear the tie. I don't know if y'all know about that story. Don't wear the tie. No, but on a serious note.
That actually is a very serious note.
Yeah, it is a serious
Really?
I would warn them with foreknowledge, but I would also say on a, more philosophical note, like everybody in the room, like you're all right. You understand? You're all right. You all got a piece of the puzzle that needs to be put together.
Come on now.
And we need to come together for what we have in common instead of beefing about the little stuff that we don't agree about with each other. Because in the future, there are going to be people like Trump and all, and we need your frame of reference of unity. You see, like we need certain frame of references to even move forward. We have the Malcolm, we have that frame of reference. We have Martin and, Kwame Ture, all kinds of people, but we don't have the frame of reference of them working together now, do we?
Powerful.
Now, if we had that frame of reference, that would show us, wait, hang on, my Christian brother could work with my Muslim brother, or, you know what I mean?
Yep.
All kinds of people with different aspects. The Panther can work with the SNCC and all of this other. So I'd say y'all all got a piece of the mirror. Now let's put it together so we can see our reflection properly.
Amen.
Okay.
Man, that was heavy.
No, beyond heavy.
Heavy. Bob Law, radio personality, put me on to some information about Dr. King in 1967. It said Dr. King addressed, it was like the National Association of Black Radio Broadcasters in like 67, and he thanked them. Like he just thanked them so much because without the black radio network that we had, getting the message out would have been a lot more difficult in those days, right? So he thanked them for being an integral part of the civil rights movement, even though some of them were in corporate and they stayed attached to a purpose. They understood there was a bigger thing happening than their individual job, and they lend themselves to their people. They took sacrifices for their people. Because of that, we were able to get the message out and get. So I would ask Dr. King, how do I use your blueprint for 2018 to get these jokers on the same page? Because we need them on point, we need them on post, we need them on the right page. So can you share that blueprint of organization with us so we can organize those folks at this time?
Wow. Hassan?
Ooh, since Lord Jamal took my answer, I got it fast. I swear to God, I was sitting there like, please don't get to the unity. But I think based on that, the only thing I would be able to say is like, I would have to inform them that their enemy is very strategic.
Come on.
That the enemy not only planning to kill you, but to destroy your legacy and even misguide what it is that you represented. Even to destroy, to kill the fight of the people coming behind you. You know, that's how strategic that the enemy that you have is. All this work that you're doing, and they're going to try to water it down. They're going to tell us that Martin Luther King just had a dream. They're going to try to tell us that Malcolm X was just this violent person, not give you the real context. And unless you are very strategic and understand what they're trying to do, and we got to go back to unity. Unless y'all unify, because the enemy is going to unify with each other, even when they don't agree, just to kill you, just to destroy what you believe in. This is how strategic our enemy is. So that's what I would sit there and say. The things that we arguing over is trivial. It's like being in prison and we all trying to escape and we chained to each other. I'm not gonna cut my leg off. We're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna run together. So I'm not sitting here focused on, let's figure out how we're gonna get out of this jail, and then we can figure out our differences later. But right now we got a common enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So when you utilize that strategy, we wouldn't even be in here having this conversation if they did that. But that's what I'm saying. You'll make our fight so much easier. We'll be able to do everything if y'all just understand how strategic and devious the enemy is.
Wow. Man, we got time for a couple of questions, but let me just say this, that the responses on this panel today were deeper than, man, you can't imagine. It was for me sitting here listening, it was a blessing to hear the thoughts and just the way the mind was just going. Just so you know, they didn't have any of these questions beforehand. They were prepped to give any of their responses in that aspect. The question. I think it's the mic. We have a mic in the middle.
Okay, can you hear me? As this workshop is about the nexus of hip hop and Congress, my question is, we don't understand each other's ecosystem of what are the issues that hip hop is facing. Is it a lack of spectrum ownership by minorities? Is it the streaming problem? So we have to map the ecosystem as to how to support hip hop, but at the same time, we don't understand how Congress works. And in particular as well, what can the Congressional Black Caucus do to help fill the gaps in this ecosystem so it can actually come together? So what we've discussed here today is very interesting and hypothetical, but actually and strategically, all of these workshops should be leading down that critical path of figuring out what should be done. If I could also just say here, we were talking about people of the past. I'm going to mention David Robinson here, who's Jackie Robinson's son, who lives in Africa and is selling coffee. And if we're talking about supporting each other, I would love to mention his Sweet Unity Farms coffee. Please look it up and support him.
Great question. Great question. Panel, who wants to take her question? Congressman?
Well, the Congressional Black Caucus meets regularly with the black broadcasters and the national broadcasters. And this issue of spectrum comes up often because as cities and states and municipalities and other countries, for that matter, are trying to build in 5G and even 6G capabilities, spectrum is still an issue. And so the federal government is wrestling, particularly through the military, about how we can either sell off some of the spectrum capacity and give it to those folks. But oftentimes, minority broadcasters are kind of left in the fray when it comes to spectrum. So we've been trying to work in a very serious way to make sure when spectrum is sold that we get our fair share.
That's right.
Hello, my name is Lakeisha Davis Small. I'm a Washingtonian, I'm an activist and a revolutionary. And I wanted to thank each and every one of you all for speaking life into us, because we're all going to walk out with a tool for our toolbox up here. And I wanted to publicly thank Reverend Yearwood, because in this room last year I stood up and said, I work for the Federal Aviation Administration, been there 21 years, I'm an activist, I'm doing my thing, but if poverty wasn't an issue, I would be out here doing the grassroots work every day and leave my corporate America job where it is. But I have to provide for my family, you know, married with children. And I have a husband that's a veteran. Thank God he made it back alive from Iraq. But
You can protest and still get a pension, though, too.
Yes, but Reverend Yearwood offered to help me, somebody that's a nobody from the Shaw community, just doing the work. I've been at his DC location with my executive board. He's come to Greater Mount Calvary to speak at Co-Pastor Susie Owens Church, which is T.D. Jake's best friend. I mean, he's really have done the work, and I just appreciate people that really do what they say and not just talk to make us feel good. But you really did it, and I love you for that, and I appreciate you. But I want y'all to know I'm really doing the work. I just broke up a fight at Shore and Highway Subway Station, 2 girls fighting, all the adults standing around looking. I went and took her hands out the girl's hand and said, we sisters, we don't do that. All the girls like, oh, she deserves it. She don't deserve nothing. And it was like 15 girls and me. And I said, not here, not now. So I'm doing the work. I'm not talking at panels and at events and all of this. I'm speaking and I'm helping and literally doing the work like a superhero. I need a badge and a gun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, Tamika, I think that's an important, I think people don't understand how sometimes this works. They think we just get all the solutions, but sometimes it is actually just doing the work. So can you respond to that?
That's right. I mean, there's nothing else for me to say except thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, because, you know, too many people are doing the work and not receiving the accolades and the
That's right.
resources that they deserve to be able to do that work. And those are the people that I like to work with. That's
right.
my folks, the ones who are just trying to figure it out from day to day. And many of them, you know, I always say that the folks that my son and I work with every day, they're like the only thing between the trigger and the finger of a young person who's hopeless, you know, and no one there. Sometimes they don't have lights. Sometimes they're shoot. Sometimes we trying to figure out how we gonna eat, you know. But people keep telling us, do well, you know, go out there, fight for us, and then when you say, okay, make sure that you click the link to donate to our organizations, you know, it's not always the support is not always there. So thank you, sis, for your work. Keep pushing. Keep doing what you're doing. Right. God bless you out here, and be safe. And no, you don't need a gun, because we have enough of those for sure. You just need the badge and a cape and a purple wand.
If I may just add on real quick, I just want to say, many shall come, but only a few are chosen.
Right.
And those that are chosen choose themselves.
Wow.
So let me say this real quick for those I see the line. I want to make sure to hear your questions, so please make sure and give as much as you can a quick question so our panel can respond to it. I want to make sure to try to get through the line we have before us.
Yes, my name is Dashan Farad. I'm a reporter for YourBlackWorld.net, and this is brief and a question. 2 years ago during the presidential campaign, I got into a rather heated debate on air with another black journalist who will remain nameless at this time over why black millennials do not vote. And I explained to him my reasons why. What I would like to know from either of the panelists, what can we do to convince the millennials that they can use or leverage the power of the vote?
Go ahead, Hakeem.
Show and prove. Show and prove is get active, show the power. People will see it and they'll respond accordingly. Our people like to see the proof before the pudding. You know what I mean? We're not into really like, don't sell me, show me, right? So a lot of times there are enough aware people in any community to make change in that community by voting. We were able to do it in Newark, And now the larger North community sees the power in voting in a block and putting our mayor in place. And we see the effect of it as it grows. We have to do that more. Like, there's so many of us that we stay to ourselves, we don't communicate, we don't share information, we don't share our successes. Getting a candidate into office, even if it's just a public school board position, is a success. And we have to share that information with folks who don't know. And as they know and they see how that success benefits your life, they're gonna want some of that benefit too. That's how we bring them in.
Can I say also, we got to start bringing these kids to the table. We can't talk about them and they not represented or something. You know, like, they want to see people that look like them. They want to hear people that talk like them, speak to their issues at tables where decisions are being made. So at that point, the influencers in these millennials are able to go back and say, no, this could really work. You know, because right now we talking about them saying how we going to help the millennials. The millennials got to sit here and tell you how you going to help them. You know, that's how we figure out. A lot of these, you know, I have this conversation with Tamika all the time. I go to these panels and it's pretty much the same panel. This is the only panel in here to me that's a little different. But there's no formerly incarcerated people. The kids ain't having their own panel. Like, we got to have panels that really are about the most marginalized communities in our community. You know, so when we start having those real conversations, then the kids are going to respect us. Until then, they're going to keep thinking it's old people trying to tell us what to do.
And you got to make it cool.
Yeah.
Respect
They
my
gotta
vote.
feel like it's cool.
Put my plug in there.
Yes, assalamu alaikum. I'm Sister Claudette Marie Mohammed, representing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You asked the question, 20 years ago, what would you be doing? 20 years ago, I was at the age of 60, and I was very blessed just 3 years prior to be the National Deputy Director of the Million Man March, which was founded by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. My question to the panel, what do you think the Million Man March did for us as a people? The Million Man March, the Million Family March, and the Million More Movement, all of which I worked tirelessly on. And now at the age of 80, I would just like to see what you all thought of that. And I want to thank you, Congressman Carson, on behalf of Minister Farrakhan, for the work that you're doing, not only for this panel, but for all of us that you do every day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Well, as someone that attended the Million Man March, I actually had the privilege of being on a team that was invited to the minister's home in Chicago, and we sat down. I think it was me, Ice Cube, Fat Joe, a few people, and we sat down with the minister prior to the Million Man March, because it was kind of like, how do we include hip hop and make this cool and make this something that everybody would want to be a part of? What I think the Million Man March did for us was, again, some of my themes are repeating, and I always talk about frame of reference, because that's very important. Things that we see and hear, and you retain that forever. So it gave us a frame of reference that black men can come together in mass amounts and, you know, have peace, no violence, and love each other, and just have camaraderie, and show that we can come together in an attempt to solve our own issues.
Let me make sure, so we're going to do this. So you're going to ask your question and then return to your seat, and then I'm going to try to give the panel opportunity to I want to hear from you, your question. So let's try to rapid fire through the questions, so we can get through all of them. So keep that in mind. We want to make sure to get through all of them. Then I let the panel then go through, kind of hear what they hear from you, and then we'll let them give their last remarks to respond to what they want to respond to. So let's go through that now.
Definitely, and I'll try to adhere to that for sure. Councilwoman Wilkerson from Roselle, New Jersey, thank you. And myself and Committeeman Ken Jones, who's in the back there, we have a youth movement going, and we are trying to ensure that we leverage the spirit of hip hop, which I think is all about empowerment, about finding one's voice, and also creating opportunity when there's a movement to prevent that opportunity from happening. And one of the things we want to do is make sure that we're not trying to leverage hip hop just to have music in the room, but to really give children a voice so that they can lead. And my son, I believe that you spoke a little bit about that in those round tables and allowing them to be at the table. But whatever any of you can add to that to give us the advice so that we as elected officials can really leverage the spirit of hip hop to empower our youth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next question.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Shazard. I'm actually on Andrew Gillum's campaign. I'm from Miami. I'm a beauty professional, and I'm 27 years old. You know, working as an activist, I take that very strong just because I'm from England also. I hear an accent, you know, and a lot of things that goes on in America, it really does not, I'm not gonna say it does not happen in England because it does, but the guns and all that, I don't know how it's changed as much as I've been gone, but I just wanna challenge everybody that's under 30 to get out and inspire somebody to vote, because I cannot vote yet. I'm waiting for my citizenship papers to come through, but I'm still out there canvassing the area, knocking door to door, to get people out there to vote. Even flew in 2 days before I even knew this was going on, and it's just an inspiration, me being here to see so many black people who are in business and trying to spread the word on voting, because that's not big in Miami and Fort Lauderdale where I'm at.
Thank you.
So anybody, if they know anybody in Florida, they want to vote Andrew Gillum, that's another black person, you know,
That's
that
my
needs
boy.
to get into, you know.
Definitely.
Gillum, that's my boy. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that. Next question.
I'm another DC native, Kevin Blackman. My son kind of preempted my question because we have a lot of marches here, right? And it's like, they were like, yo, these put the guns down, come together marches, but killers don't obey the law and killers don't come to marches. You understand what I'm saying? So that's one side of it. But the other side is, we are hip-hop artists. I'm an artist too. We are artists. At what point do we realize that we the one raising these kids? We the one gave them this BS. I can't, like, we the one put it in their head. These are our children. At what point we can keep talking out at people? At what point do you say, I'm the one that told them it's the world's biggest? I'm the one that told them it's this Hip Hop Caucus. At what point do we say, you know what? I'm the one that put those vibes into this world. How do I get it back? And who's gonna get on a panel and say, I'm sorry to these children, I failed you. Because our parents were the civil rights movement. They came through something. And I tell the youngers I work with, you need to, I wanted to get bad, because sometimes we gotta get bad before it get worse. So at what point are we as hip hop artists that's older, I'm 40, and anybody older than me gonna say, you know what? My bad, youngin. I'm the one that told you to do that. At what point do we take responsibility for what we did instead of just pushing it back out into the world?
No.
At what point?
Got it. Thank you so much.
I do it every day.
Next question.
Hello, my name is Vivian Covington. I'm the mayor from University Park, out of Illinois, off Chicago. And I'm telling you, if it's violence, it's violence. And I'm a very big activist with the children. We have a college, a university, and I always speak for civic engagement. And I really, really, really want to get with this, because one of my mentees is 10 years old. I'm reaching there. I'm not going to the college level, because at that point they should know what it is and how it is. But I'm meeting with the babies. And I want to know, who can I get? We want, my trustee here is from with me too. We want really hardly to get this hip hop movement going on. I walk in the streets. I sit at the baby showers. I go wherever I need to go. I am Tupac lover, but I do love all of you for what you do, but people don't get it right. They are so militant against the hip hop, but they have such a beautiful message. I've looked at all the movies and I've been there with all the rappers. I am old school. So I want to know, I'm starting an organization called Youth Legislators, because I want my mission next year is to bring me 200 or an airplane full of children here to see you. because they don't get the opportunity, they don't get the exposure. I just got some young people right now, I paid their fees to be into League of Women Voters. I'm trying to pay for them to understand, to expose them. We don't want to do that. Everybody's crying and whining. I hate politicians, because I don't call myself a politician, I'm a servant. And we need to pick out of our pockets and stop pimping, being political pimps, and put that money back and sponsor these children into things, and organizations. I'm tired of it. So I would like I want to get some rappers or whoever I need to get and have them in something in Chicago or in my area, in my suburb, to get these people up, because we had a person that got on a video and he put a hood on his head and said, I'll be in your neighborhood soon. And that's allowed, and the school district said, that's okay. Oh, he was just, no, if that was a black brother, he'd be in jail. But they allowed that. So I need to help, we need to do this, and I want to do whatever I can to do it. I'm passionate, and I'm upset about it, and I want it to happen. So please, someone tell me what I need to do to get that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Connect afterwards.
Okay.
And let me say this, just for those, I want to make sure, there are two things I know just from my positioning. I also know how it's just therapeutic to get that off. And so I want to make sure that you get that, but I need to make sure I want to get to that line for questions. So please just give me a question so we can get to the panel.
Good afternoon. I'm Minister Wanda Strong Howard. I'm a mother of a former New York State Senator Antoine Thompson, also from Light of the World Christian Church, Bishop Thomas G. Benjamin. My younger son, who has been a gospel rapper, mime and praise dancer, and vocalist for almost 20 years, I have to say it is vicious. We have experienced a move, and just being here today, since he couldn't be here, he's doing a program in Massachusetts as a gospel rapper and vocalist. We have experienced a move where people have viciously tried to stop gospel rapping because it is changing people's lives greatly. We have a Prayer in the Park ministry, and he was hit by a city government vehicle that tried to stop the movement of gospel rapping. So I want to say to everyone today, as I said to my son, they do not want to see the change that gospel rapping and hip-hopping is making across this country and around the world. I want to encourage everyone to keep on doing what you're doing. Be aware. It's a movement. They will try to take your license from workers' comp, disability, any kind of way they can to stop the movement that God is doing. So keep doing what you're doing. And Congressman, whatever you can do to help push gospel rap, hip hop, spoken word, all of that, I support. I've been supporting this ministry for years. Do it. Thank you.
Very quick, I have a question, in particular for my goddaughter. Her name is Elijah Easton. She's found a love in hip hop. So my question is, particularly for anyone, but particularly Moni Love or Tamika, what advice would you give a 13-year-old girl who's living in this environment, environment of social media, who's I would say a conscious hip hop artist herself, because she writes on anti-bullying and things like that. So what advice would you give her? Is my question.
Excellent. Real quick, before your question, make sure your question. My sister in the back, what's your name in the back? Right there. Who's last? Right. Yeah. What's your name? Who's last in line? Okay, so that makes sure, make sure, because y'all keep adding on to the line back there. I see y'all keep adding on to the line. That's just fine. The brother in the back, you're the last one. Got you. So question, thank you.
Yes, I have a question. I'm Christian Gooden from Texas College, representing Dr. Shirley McKellar, who's running for United States Congress against Louis Gohmert. My question is, we've been having shootings in schools and stuff, and we have politicians, majority Republican politicians, blaming our culture, our hip hop, for white boys come to our schools to blaming hip hop for what their wrongdoings and stuff. I'm asking, what's your take on politicians blaming our music for white boys doing their wrong things?
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Clayton House. 15 years ago, my brother was murdered by the police, and this is before what you call the viral explosion. And I feel that because we have social media at our hands, it's brought a lot of light to the situation at hand, but in the midst of the FBI formulating a new black extremist agenda and things of that nature, what message?
COINTELPRO?
Yes, potentially a new COINTELPRO.
Okay. I'm old.
But this is was just spoken in a setting hearing maybe about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
What do we tell our youth now that we have these social media platforms to combat the stigma of saying that you're black and proud and saying that black lives do matter?
Thank you.
Hi, greetings. My name is Sabrina Green, and for years, Reverend Yearwood, you knew me for doing work for political prisoners, but it's another area that needs my attention. That is those that have been victim of dating sites. We had one, Marty McMillan, last year, who was missing, and when he was found in October, he was missing in April, found in October, nothing but skin and bones. So for the anniversary of him being missing, we're having a march, a rally at the Lincoln Memorial on April 27th next year. This is to give focus for other families that don't have closure there, and the awareness that there's so many others that, you know, from the killings, the missing, dating sites, all of that. You know, as we know with Alicia Rudd, then her stepfather is going to be doing something on September 30th as a prayer. So I want to let people know this. It's just contact us at No Answers, No Peace, Facebook, and there's an Eventbrite link that you can sign on there. But more importantly, we have to address this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next question.
Hi guys, so I'm pretty sure a lot of people already know who I am. My name is Shakisha Clemens. I'm a survivor of police brutality with the Waffle House. I've been here with Tamika Mallory and my son, Brittany Pegman. They've been like just dragging me along because I'm woke and I see what's going on and I want to be a part of this work. And by me being 25 and young, I am able to reach out to people that are my age, that are in the hood that I've come from, and I know the struggle. I'm able to reach them. So my question to you guys, I have two questions. The first one is, how can I, and not only I, but everyone else that are starting movements now, how can we implement hip-hop into our movement to get people like myself engaged and woke? And not only just to be woke, but to stay woke about what's going on. And then my second question is, how do we not lose sight and get discouraged when we are begging for help, but ain't nobody helping us? Don't nobody want to help us? Like what do we supposed to do? Thank you.
Thank you.
Young Clemens.
Hi, my name is Myra Byarm. I'm with ExodusFoundation.org. Our mission is to stop the flow of African Americans to prison. We're out of Charlotte, North Carolina. My question for the panel, and I represent the formerly incarcerated. I have 2 master's degrees and have trouble getting a job. I just finished up a degree from Northwestern in public policy, so part of my reason for being here is networking, because I need a job. But secondly, you know, for the panel, my question is, if you could share your blueprint for reigniting the fight in our communities, because people are not woke. They don't feel empowered, they feel undervalued. So we need strategies for educating our communities, for empowering our communities, and for creating sustainable coalitions of Black and brown people that can make a difference.
Thank you. Next question.
Good afternoon. My name is Chidima Oye Uchendu, and I am a proud teacher from Indianapolis, Indiana.
All right now.
And also proud Nigerian American immigrant too as well. And it's actually my students that brought this question, so I'm here to represent my students. But one thing that I want to lead with is an African proverb. As you know, African people, we always speak it in Proverbs. And it says, when you follow in the path of your father, you learn to walk like him. And one of the things that my student challenged me with is, how do we combat, how do we shift the perspective of what, you know, hip hop seems to be. I mean, these are young children. I teach in an elementary school. I see what they're exposed to, the kind of things that they listen to, the kind of perception, what they think hip hop is when it's something else. We talked about the authenticity of what it is and shifting it from the music business to, you know, having people understand the true core and essence of what it is. How do we need to get young minds. How do we start shifting that narrative? How do I, as a teacher, do this in my classroom with my students who are very young? How do I start shifting it now before they grow up and it becomes, something that's ingrained in them, before they become like those people, like the negative perceptions that they see? I don't know if I made sense. That makes
Definitely.
sense? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Ian Harper. I'm a creative director from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm going to keep it short, but what can be done or what is being done about the program directors, A&Rs, and things that are sitting at these positions that I think my son or Lord Jamar said about putting Eminem, or it was Lord Jamar, putting Eminem on a certain platform, that these are those people that are putting them there, but they're also putting the people that look like us, that are detrimenting us, that are knocking us down with the same hammer that some of us are building with. You know what I mean? They're putting them in those positions. So I'm just trying to understand what's being done about the 300 entertainments that's literally feeding it down the pipeline. And we all know who runs that. I don't have to name any names, but he looks just like us. And I'm just discouraged to even try to follow in those footsteps, because maybe there was a step there that he took that he had to make, or maybe he felt he had to make to put that artist in a certain position, so that I had to look up to them and say, why is this person getting any money? And it's not about hating or anything about that, but it's why are they being put on this pedestal, in this position, and they're rappers. They're not actual true artists or true artivists, as you said. And I put hip-hop music where it is. Hip-hop isn't dead. It's only with certain people. But I think that there are certain rappers out there that are just getting the game confused and confusing us all. And even the program directors and the A&Rs, like I said, that are just getting fat on checks off of it. I'm not appreciating it, and I want to know what we can do about it as a people. And some of you all, there's some of your constituents, and Congressman Carson, that you could influence as far as policy is concerned.
Definitely.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, panelists, and this is awesome. I was just over at the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. I met with Congress yesterday. I'm one of the few brothers in America that get a chance to sit in the corporate room and listen to some of the stuff that's really happening. So I commend you for what you're doing on the hip-hop side. I think the question on the panel was the magic wand question, right? What do you do? Well, I have 4 boys. I'm a father of 4. I've been in the industry, corporate America, for 35 years. Started at Bank of Boston, Wells Fargo, and now I'm with a British company that bought our business here, and I sit in Reston, Virginia. Now, my sons, all 4, graduates of college, 2 HBCUs, okay? The other HU, Hampton, and 2 from William & Mary. One at Wall Street, one of the most powerful black men is being groomed right now to be a partner at Goldman Sachs. 30 under 30. Look him up, Daniel Dixon. The youngest son with the Boston Celtics, NBA, he's now playing in France. He's a professional basketball player, 6'6", shooting guard. He's the next Klay Thompson. Quietly, they don't know that yet. And the other 2 are finance. So I got into their lives for the last 35 years and made sure that those young men would not end up in anybody's jails that they created for us, okay? First thing. Now, I came with solutions for you. I'm gonna give you some solutions.
Give me, just because of time, because I know
real quick.
Give me your question so we can come back.
Okay.
Definitely, Bill.
How do you take what you talked about today and really monetize it? Because we can talk about all the stuff you want here for years to come. But how do you take 10 million black folks, putting $100 together in a legitimate entity that's developed, that has audit boards and everybody playing by the rules, that's millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. Would $100 times 10 million black folks, that's $1 billion. That's your first $1 billion. That's the platform. Now you have a voice. White folks understand money. So we can talk all we want. But the Million Man March, if they did it right, and it accomplished some things, you would have selected and got a $100 commitment. I would have put up more, $100 commitment from each folks. And then you can support Congressman Carson, okay? You can be involved in supporting our political officials that are doing the things we want them to do. So money is the power. All this is talk. I know the formula and how to make it done. So if anybody needs to know, I'll share.
I think so. I'm gonna let. Thank you for that question. And so I'm gonna let the panel. First of all, I want to thank everybody for for staying around. Because you stayed around, actually Tone up front is going to go to the back door. Just want to make sure we're going to give each one of y'all a pass to a reception that we have tomorrow. So you get a little something for your longevity. So definitely thank you for staying around. But
thank you, Rev.
No, thanks.
And thank the panelists. Thank you for coming, taking the time out. Thank you, Team Carson, Jessica, Kim, everybody. So thank you.
I want to give you want to give the folks.
Thank you, Queen.
And let's give the folks. You get a chance to, and there's a lot that came at you. I know a lot came at you. So let's start with my son, and then Carson, you have the last piece to close out.
Well, I'm gonna do the spoken word from mine. The new hashtag is stay woke. They say stay woke, but are they woke? Or do they play woke as they sleep? Are these the same folks that say, oh, what happened to Philando Castile was wrong, but still won't go out into these streets? But they weep and they tweet about violence by police every time they see a boy shot, but then they get silent every time we speak about a boycott. But that boy's not their kin, so they go back to sleep until another boy is shot again, and then they hashtag stay woke. But they won't donate to the movement, so the freedom fighters stay broke. But they hope we get equal rights. But I hope that they know that we're gonna need to fight, because hope ain't never win no war. And sure, Jay-Z album was dope, but a lot of us was woke way before 444. Before Kendrick pimped the butterfly, we limped 200-something miles for justice. We was in Baltimore for Freddie Gray, protested in front of Pretense for over 30 days before it was the end thing. So I'm glad they woke a lot of y'all up, but a lot of us was woke as fuck before it was trending. So are they pretending to blend in with the crowd, or are they really intending to get in this fight from now? I mean, everybody got a verse in the song about Trayvon and how it's wrong that the police keep shooting us. But then every other rap is about Molly's in the trap and a whole bunch of stupid stuff. Now I ain't here to judge, because ain't none of us perfect yet. But how the hell we gonna stay woke on Molly's and Percocet? If you surf the net and you hear about some of them be talking, they say they woke, but they really sleepwalking. But if you really woke, then I applaud you. And if you've been here, then I saw you when they ignored you. And when they called you, you came. Hail, snow, or rain. You made a sacrifice. Maybe you gave your dollar to Eric Garner's mama because you couldn't give her back his life. But you understand you can't get nothing by doing nothing. So if we scream no justice, no peace, and we don't get justice and they get peace, then that means we was bluffing. So if Kaepernick take a knee on national TV to highlight the injustice that happened to us, and we don't stand with him, that's like watching what they did to Rosa Parks, then getting back on the back of the bus. So I'm asking, what is the one thing worth fighting for? What is one thing we all feel is worth fighting for? I don't know what y'all saw happen in Charlottesville, but Trump and his supporters trying to have us back in them cotton fields. So if you feel like I feel, I want you to raise your right hand. Before I go, I want to leave you with this. The easiest way for evil to prosper is for good people to do nothing.
That's right.
Stay woke.
Stay woke.
Y'all felt that, right? Y'all felt that, right? So I just dropped this record called Dump Trump featuring that brother right there. Video by Benny Boom. Go to YouTube right now. Put in Dump Trump, Hakeem Green, My Son, and share that record. Dump Trump. That's the message going into November 2018, and as long as we gotta say that. Now, I want to close out with, I have a company, a for-profit, community-based for-profit called 24 Hours of Peace. It was created to support Mayor Raz Baraka's initiative, Violence is a Public Health Issue. In 2017, the city of Newark experienced the largest drop in crime since 1967 in 50 years. The crime rate in Newark in 2017 was lower than it was in 1967. That's huge. We use hip hop to engage the community. We partner with nonprofit organizations who have already been doing the work. We don't need to recreate the wheel. Hip hop, for all intents and purposes, is the commercial that we use to bait young folks in. We have organizations already doing the work on the ground to bring these people into their fold, educate them, so forth and so on. These are some of the strategies we've been using in Newark as it has to do with hip hop culture, the arts and entertainment cultures. So to your question, what can hip hop do in your community? Reach out to me after this panel discussion. We can have more discussion and dialogue. Let's bring 24 hours of peace to your city.
So I know when not to speak. I think everything that has been said has been great, and I'm going to pass my time over to the brother here. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on this panel. I think everything that needs to be said has already been said.
You've been itching to skip a question the whole time. This was your chance. I get it. Yeah, well, first of all, to reiterate on some of the things, you know, some of the people asking online and stuff, I just keep saying to people, make it cool. Like, if for the youth, if you don't make it, they're gonna do what they think is cool. So when you go back to like the early 90s and the so-called golden era of hip hop and like the conscious groups that were out at that time, it was cool to be conscious. You see what I'm saying? And the reason why they'll try to quell those type of messages, because look what happened. Like, if it wasn't for the conscious music, why do you think the LA rebellion happened? That was people, and those are people that really supposed to be on some gangster stuff, but they had that revolutionary spirit inside them. And the music was giving them a frame of reference for revolution. So when something happened, oh, there go my man AB in the house. AB be everywhere. What's up, bro? Okay. So yeah, it's like they don't want that. They don't want a music that's gonna inspire action. Not that I'm saying I want us to go out rioting and you know, burning down our own communities, but hip hop caused us to act and to react and to think differently than how we were, you know, brought up to think. So it's all about make it cool. Like, we have to make it cool because they're trying to make it whack. Like to be woke. You see, they'll put the air quotes around woke, and there goes, they call us hoteppers. That's a new code word to try to make you feel negative about being positive. Wow. Don't let it happen. Don't fall for the okie doke. We have to find ways of how to, again, just make this attractive, make it magnetic to the people, especially to the youth, so that everything that we're talking about here is something that they'll willingly want to do. It can't seem like something that the older generation is shoving down their throats. They got to feel like they organically came up with this on their own. So it's about you planting certain seeds and you know what I mean? Giving it water, sunlight, and allowing it to grow.
Oh, you know, I do have something to say. See? No, I said thanks for having me on the panel, but I did not properly give my gratitude to my brother, Andre Carson, for having this panel every single year.
Thank you, Queen.
I didn't do that
I
properly.
would have caught that one at the end here.
I just want to circle back to that and say,
Thank you, Queen.
but not just thank you for having the panel, but thank you for having some of us who you know are doing the work to keep coming. I was coming to the panel whether I was on it or in the audience. It didn't matter. I was going to be here anyway. And no matter what, however I had to get here, I went home yesterday. My son and I went back to New York yesterday to vote and to stand with our brother who won over 650,000 votes as a young black man from the hood running for lieutenant governor. And then we got on the 3 a.m. train and came back here to participate in this discussion today. So thank you so much for doing this. They keep trying to have panels at the same time that you have yours to try to steal your thunder.
Yep.
But those of us who are with you will never leave you.
I
We're
love
going
you,
to be
Queen.
here every year.
I love you. I love you so much.
Real quick, I just want to say I have a podcast on YouTube called the Anatomy and Godcast with Lord Jamal and Rye Digger. Subscribe to that. Donate to the show. This is something that, we striving to be authentic hip-hop voices, and we want to, provide you with the information that you're not getting on the, mainstream media. This is something that it's funded out of my pocket. I do this on my own, so please, go to the channel, donate, and probably some of our next guests is going to be my son and Hakeem. And, the sister Tamika right here. Yeah, I need y'all out there. Peace.
Any words you want to say, Mona, in closing?
Oh yeah, there was a young lady, she actually left. She had to catch a flight to get back to Florida. There was a young lady that was here that said that she was actually from the UK.
Yeah.
And that she's not able to currently vote. She's still waiting for her citizenship and everything to come through, and what more can she do to help to get the awareness out for people to vote or what have you. I wish she was here right now. She did stop me outside on my way back from the bathroom and asked to take a quick selfie, and I did. But I wished that, I know, okay. But the point is that I really wish she was here so that I could say to her, don't underestimate the little chips off the block that you are doing. Because if everybody's chipping away at the same block's gonna diminish at some point. And I understand what she's saying about, she's trying to do as much as she can, taking into consideration she's not able to vote right now. She's waiting for her citizenship, but she doesn't realize that just by chipping away at the block, even though she can't actually vote right now, but still getting the awareness out there, she's actually helping to protect her ability to become a citizen. Because lo and behold, there are things in the works that I came to understand are being considered to be revised for people that are actually legal residents, and even some that have citizenship. And is there a way are there any circumstances that this can be revoked? I did not know that these questions were even being thrown around in the atmosphere, but apparently they are. And I have to know these things because I am a legal resident here. I have been since 1988. And I have 4 children that I'm not trying to be separated from ever. Even when I don't want to be told when I'm in assisted living, that I can't be here anymore. And my children are here. So these are things that I have to know. So in essence, I wish I could tell her, the little that you're doing, even without the ability to vote right now, is still working towards awareness for voting to take place by a lot of us and a lot of the youngins that haven't previously voted. So good for her. She's not here, but good for her, and keep it up.
Thank you.
Listen, I want to say one thing. I'm a shameless plug. You see this hat that Tamika's wearing right here? This is one of my hats on my site. You can order it. This is also one of my shirts. I have merchandise. If you want to support me, you can definitely come support me. We got shirts that say God's work. We got for the streets, gangster, but wokers. We got all types of stuff that you need. So,
let me say this before we wrap up, because I actually want to. It was a website.
You got to come on. It's mysonnyg.com. I have some with me.
Let me also go to hoodg.com to get some of these, podcast.
We come bearing gifts too to all the panelists. We would love to give them to the audience for staying, but we don't have enough. So we have gifts for all the panelists. We have some congressional swag. It's not like Grammy swag, but it's congressional swag.
Let me close. Let me close by saying, I want to follow what Tamika was saying, Councilman Carson. I also, as you know, got on a flight in San Francisco at 3 o'clock this morning. And literally landed, changed the suit, put on a different hat. I think I had on Flint before, put on Resist, and got here.
Thank you, Rev.
And this would have been the only panel and the only discussion I would have came to. But it is real. I will say this, as we get to our 10-year anniversary, I now know that there's folks who may want to steal thunder, so I'm going to prepare now, because all in that process, so we're ready. But let me say this as we close on a serious note. I told you, and you heard my tone with the kind of questions, and I wanted to revert back to love, because this is not a game. When this panel started, Hurricane Florence was just beginning to hit North Carolina. While we've been here, there have been numerous folks who have departed this earth in Wilmington, North Carolina. There's some seniors whose whole house was washed away while we were sitting here. So as we were sitting here, and when many others had been sitting throughout this and doing their thing, know that our people were drowning in North Carolina. This ain't no game. So I thank you for staying and understanding, and I hope the prayers for those families who had to bury their mamas and daddies now, they will have comfort, but the storm ain't still blowing down. And so understand, this is no game. When policies we talk about with climate change and as far as pollution, all those things, it has consequences. So we take this process seriously. I take you seriously. I love you all. Thank you for being a part of This is America, Hip Hop and Politics.